Yes.
Oh, now it has a thing that you can say, got it, or leave the meeting. Like, I don't want to be recorded.
Too late. Well, I need to put it up on YouTube, so it has to be
No.
recorded.
Cool.
Okay, so, all right, I'm going to do my spiel and then get going. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Awakened Soul Stories. I am one of your hosts, Pam Padalano, and my other host is here, Neil Bogasian. I'm sure you all remember him from a podcast episode that we did recently, which was amazing. And our special guest tonight, which I am really super excited about, and Neil will tell you how excited he is in a moment. His name is Dr. Vin Monaco, and he is I don't know, I like to refer to him as a holistic chiropractor. He's the easy guy. He's also a stand-up comedian and a wellness coach, a motivational speaker. And again, it seems like we have a lot of Renaissance men on this show. So I think we'll put you in that category then, okay?
All right.
And Neil, anything you'd like to add?
I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. It's an honor, especially with the crazy things presently happening in our world today and in the realms of healthcare. Chiropractors have been thrust to the forefront of a lot of the COVID mess. Some aspects that are controversial, some not.
Yes.
You know? And I think it's fascinating. I think that we're living in a time when people have a choice, and the dichotomy is becoming very defined as to whether people choose to go the traditional route for healthcare, or they can explore more alternative ways, or in the case of chiropractic medicine, it's been around for hundreds of years.
Mm.
We're all kind of involved in that holistic practices of non-traditional medicine.
Right.
Right. So Vin, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know we had a session a while back. I think it was like 9 months ago. And it left an impression on me because we had such a, oh my gosh, such a diverse conversation about many things. So that was, as I would say, or my kids would say, that was super cool.
I would agree. It was super cool.
So can you tell us a little bit about, why you do what you do, and maybe a little bit about your background, and then we can delve into some deeper questions after that.
All right. Well, what's interesting is, as a kid, I was always sickly. Like, I always remembered being sick with one ailment or another, and had bronchitis, had a lot of the childhood illnesses. And I remember, almost like, oh, is Vin well now? It's like, oh, did you have a sudden bout of wellness now? And my parents would always bring me to the pediatrician. And of course, there'd always be medication. And I didn't like being sick, although I did see that, wow, I got to stay home from school. There's a little bit of something there. But it was when I was 19 that I always had some breathing problems. I went and got diagnosed, and the nurse didn't have very good bedside manner, nor did the doctor. And they had me blow into this respirometer, this big contraption. And I didn't feel I did it right. And she's like, it doesn't matter. And yet, based on that finding, it was, well, you have asthma. And I was given medication, which then I had a reaction to and gave me the shakes. And I was on a date and I started getting the shakes, and the girl was like, do you have epilepsy? And it's like, well, no, so I had to talk with the doctor, and he told me to bite the pill in half. And I got very angry and just threw the pills away. And he told me I was an idiot. And
Oh my God.
Anyway, I decided to start looking at what else could I do to help? So between exercise, and I asked him, I said, is there any exercise, nutrition that you could recommend rather than a pill? And he goes, no. And I said, well, is it because there is nothing, or you didn't study that in medical school. And he got extremely angry. He goes, don't you question my education. And it's like, well, I just wanted to know. So that started me on looking at vitamins, minerals, exercises. And then eventually I went into chiropractic college for the sole reason of wanting to better understand this human body. And along with that, I've always been interested in acting, and some of the acting classes that I took, it would be on how to use this instrument. So with voice, with movement, etc. So the two kind of combined as far as my interest in anatomy and physiology, my interest in moving the body, my interest in performing. And so when I have ended up in chiropractic college, I found that they were just as wild and crazy as I was. They had talent shows, and I was able to do comedy at the talent show. So
That's a great story.
yeah, that got my interest by, being sick and then how to get well, and not necessarily from necessarily taking medications all the time.
Absolutely. That's interesting. How dare you question a doctor, right? How dare you? It's not many people know. And I think, Pam, you and I might have broached this subject when you and I spoke. The Rockefellers took control of the American Medical Association. The
Yes.
Rockefellers were the ones that paid money to publications to erase natural foods, natural cures,
Yes.
natural herbs that people had used for centuries to heal and be well. The Rockefellers. And we're
Yes.
seeing the fruits of their crimes right now with the
Yes.
manipulation of the CDC, with the manipulation of the AMA,
The
American
FDA.
Medical Association, the FDA, what the CDC just did yesterday. It's the elephant in the room already again, with regards to adding the COVID things to the children's schedule. And it's absolutely awful, absolutely awful. And despite the blowback in the public section for comments leading up to that vote. So your story is relevant to what's happening today. I had something similar when I was younger. I had bouts of strep throat nonstop, mono, horrible case of mono. Had something happen when I was born. I lost all the skin on my body as an infant. Doctors didn't know what the heck it was. So I was also on that same path. Yeah. And I fell right into the same routine and the same questions that you did. There's got to be more than all of these medications and chemicals. And I also noted in one of your videos, you talked about repressed frequencies and some of the patterns and traumas that people hang on to. And what's interesting is, as you know, and Pam, during COVID, as a result of COVID, as a result of the lockdowns, there's a whole new ballpark of traumas that have been hatched, and people are going to be dealing with this for years and decades to come.
Yes. Yes.
So do you have any, first of all, do you have any recommendations that people can do at home to begin to self-assess themselves and to begin to heal from even the mental traumas that they're experiencing now and spanning these last 2 years?
Well, the first thing I would say with anyone is in starting to take their power back as far as their own self-assessment, their own healing, is acknowledge where you're starting from. And so like what you just shared, most people don't know that our modern medical establishment, and it's not a healthcare system, it's a sickness and disease care system, that it was promulgated by the Rockefellers, and under the, cloak of, oh, we're helping humanity. It's like, no.
To make money.
To make money.
And putting the petroleum in the pills, right?
Yeah.
Because they needed the petroleum to make the outer coating for the pills. It held the pills, the bottles. Anyway, go ahead.
and so it's like, as people start waking up to the fraud, to the illusion that was, that we were hypnotized to, it's first up just calling where you're starting from. So what I see in the type of healing work that I do, the chiropractic work, it coincides with what I've learned with coaching as well, is that when you call what is, you stop the world. It's like call a timeout and you just call what it is. So if you're feeling like crap, you just say, you know what? I'm feeling like crap. You don't have to like it. Healing is not pretty. Healing isn't, ooh, wonderful. It's sometimes the most uncomfortable, disgusting thing you can go through. But on the other side of it is this amazing experience. So wherever someone's at, if they got a pain, if they got an ailment, it's just acknowledging what is. Yes, we want it to be different, but this is what is for right now. And appreciating that this living system is expressing something, because dead people don't express anything. They don't breathe. They don't, it just decompose. So whatever you got going on, acknowledge it, appreciate the fact that it's an expression of a living system that's trying to reset itself. So what I tell all the patients or anyone that I've coached, it's like, if we look at mom and dad got together, one cell from mom and then one cell from dad came together and formed this one cell. Out of that one cell, in 9 months, or give or take a couple months here, you're born. In the adult body, it's estimated between 50, 70, or 100 trillion cells make up this whole living organism. Even if someone's got cancer, even if someone's got some disease process, they're pretty much in sync with one another.
Or they have a language all their own. They have a communication and energy all their own. Right.
That's right. So it's like, to me, healing is, how can we get those that are already in sync to become more in harmony, and those that aren't to kind of join in. So it's like tuning up an orchestra, how to get all the sections in alignment, in harmony with one another. So there's more vibrancy.
Right.
So there's the proper tone. So you have, like, going back to the orchestra, if one instrument's out of tune in that orchestra, it's not going to sound pretty.
That's right.
Same thing in the body. If something's a little out of tune, it's not going to function as efficiently as when it is in tune. So call what is, appreciate what is, realize that you have all these cells, trillions and trillions of cells that are wanting to fully express life, wanting to express your aliveness.
That are already smart in their own right, that regenerate every 180 to 365 days.
Yeah. So when you look at that, you're going, wow, now, are we educated that way? No.
Nope.
We are not told what a magnificent self-healing, self-regulating system this is. We're told once you're born, it's stupid. It's a blob of protoplasm, and you need to go to an expert because they know. And
we're told we have limits.
Yeah, and my question's always been, were they there at your conception?
Right.
No. Were they there through the whole development? Did they know where everything needs to go? No. So do we need experts for certain things? Sure, to get information. But then once you got that information, it's like, what are the intelligence of your body dictating as far as where to go? What's the path that's right for you?
And I feel like during COVID, during the lockdowns and the protocols and everything, they basically hijacked people's minds. And as you know, our bodies are loyal to the thoughts that traverse through our brains, through our minds.
Sure.
If we say, oh my God, I'm scared, the body is going to say, okay, we need to be scared. It's going to register fright and fear.
Right.
And fear then becomes that controlling mechanism.
Yeah.
And still, I was in Walgreens yesterday, and I see a couple and they're waiting in line in the pharmacy line, and they're masked up and very timid, and their body language is all drawn inward. And I walked by and I looked, I said, wow, this is big business, huh? And just making a joke about it because it was a pretty long line. I swear I was talking to zombies. Not nobody said anything, nobody laughed, and they were still masked up, and they were there to get their shot again, plus the flu shot. And it's just my concern is that we're now even more loyal to the systems that have continually let us down, going all the way back to when Royal Rife was allegedly curing cancer with a frequency machine.
Yes, yes. They don't want people to be empowered. They don't want people to know
Exactly.
the
So
truth.
true.
Totally agree.
They don't want us to heal ourselves, to have
No.
that ability. They want
No,
us to be
Because they
afraid of
lose
it.
power. They lose power when we do. That's right.
Yeah. Look, I see that all the time. I'm walking wherever, and I even have people that come into the office that are, masked up, and I say, what? And oh, I'm over 60, and I'm like, I'm over 60. Oh, and they're just fearful. I try not to bestow my model of the world on others. It's like I maintain curiosity about where they're coming from, and then see if we can bridge something.
Mhm.
And I've had some, they're saying, I don't really want to go for another one. What do you recommend? And I'll ask them, well, what is it you want to do? Where do you want to go? I said, because legally, I can't tell you what to do medically. I can share what I would do, but I can't tell you what to do. And, but I will ask you where you want to go and what you want to do.
Mhm.
And then when they open up, I'll give them resources that they can go, investigate for themselves to make a determination on what's right for them. But some are so hooked in with the fear.
Yes.
It's like, and then I'll say, where's the fear getting you? They'll bring it back to their body, and they'll say in their body. I'm like, okay. And then with the visit, can we get the body to calm down a little bit more, so they at least can start listening to their body again and not be caught up in the
Yeah.
head.
Instead of
So,
going outside of their systems, draw them back into their inner truths, because it's going to tell them the truth of their bodies every single time,
yeah. And so, yeah, we have our work cut out for us as far as our fellow brothers and sisters out there. Some I don't know if we can help them.
Agree.
So it's just, we just love them for where they are.
Yep.
I don't know what their spiritual journey is. It's like, if they're curious and they ask me, I'll be happy to share.
Mhm.
It's and there's some that are open to hearing it, and some that are not open to hearing it. So
It's relative. It's relative to the individual, and you're absolutely right. It's what works for them is what I tell my clients. Whatever's going to work for you, you need to do that. I know that all three of us have heard stories of people that had questions, but they were felt compelled to move forward in a direction they were reluctant to go in because of peer pressure, because of their job, because of family screaming at them.
Yeah. And this is unfortunately where the insanity is. It's
Yes.
like you kick in the fear, and now enough people are in that fear mode. And as soon as, if we look at physiologically what happens, I have people when they come in like, oh, I got this and that. And it's like, it's all based on the stress. They go, oh, how can it be stress? I'm like, hold on. There's a certain level of stress which is beneficial. It allows us to grow, evolve, and learn. But too much, and the whole system breaks down. So you get a little bit of a fright, all of a sudden higher brain function drops out. So your conscious, educated mind is not in the picture.
Great
Your
point.
lower brain function.
Absolutely.
Second, digestion shuts off. So now you can't digest food. Third, you can't rest properly. If you were surrounded by the Taliban and you're in a foxhole in Afghanistan, and one false move, they're going to blow your head off, you would not doze off. You would be on high alert. So you're not going to rest. And in that space, as Bruce Lipton said with his studies of the cells, it's like you can't prepare for defense and heal and evolve and grow. It's either defense or growth. It can't be both. So in that moment, there's no healing, there's no growing. You're just, now you pump that up with people watching the news 24/7. It's like they're ramped up. Oh my God, 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 oh my God.
Bombardment.
That's
Yep.
right. So
Yeah, by
the only
design.
way.
Yep.
What was that?
I said by design.
Oh, absolutely. So it's like by getting them to calm down enough so that they get back in their body, back in their rhythms, back with their normal breathing, and they're calm. Now higher brain function comes back in, digestion comes in. Now they can rest, they can recover, and their body can heal. Now it's like you present information. Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Those are great points. I once read that the human body simply was not designed or built to undergo constant bombardment of stress and conflict and war and all these things that are constantly thrown at us now, manufactured, especially in 2022, propaganda thrown at us to keep us in a state of weakness through fear.
Yeah.
Right.
And, people also don't understand that this isn't new. This is like a generation and a half ago. They used these same tactics in World War II,
Yeah.
So whether it be the 6 feet apart for keeping the enemy apart, the prisoners apart in the POW camps, stay 6 feet apart, masked up, keep them in isolation, don't speak. Sound familiar? It's exactly what they rolled out on us.
Yeah.
And I just want to segue briefly because I read that you spent some time in Australia. So on the same vein, it must break your heart seeing some of the stuff that's going on there, or what's being reported anyway.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrific. No, I have several of my kids still living in Australia, and talking with them and talking to other friends of just what was done, and they became a police state.
Yep.
And all because there was this quote unquote thing that's going to kill everybody. And when you look at what they did, as far as it's an isolated country, okay, and we don't want any disease whatsoever. Well, that's kind of not a real good goal. And then when you look at their stats, they didn't have hardly any deaths up until they started bringing in the jab.
Yep.
So, but no one wants to look at, if you're going to do scientific investigation,
the scientific method,
you got to have everything and any possibility. And then if you come up with a hypothesis and go, I think this is what's going to happen, you also have to come up with the opposite of that. It's like, let me prove that this is my theory is actually wrong. So you got to be willing to do that. So it's really a humbling thing if you're really doing the scientific method properly to go, I have a theory that this is what's going to be, but I could be totally off on that. And I got to be okay with that. And I got to let other people look at it as well. And that's not what's taking place.
No. And many doctors, there are many doctors who are trying to speak out.
Yes.
I have a friend in Florida. I was just chatting with him last week, and his naturopathic doctor told my friend that he is seeing just bundles of people with side effects, with issues from the jab. And these stories are not getting out. And the mainstream media, unfortunately, is complicit.
Well, they're bought and paid for.
They have budgets, exactly.
Like we're looking at watching programs. Now, you remember it used to be you watch a TV program and there would be a car ad, and then there would be a bank ad, and then there would be for different
sponsored by.
Yeah. So it's all drugs.
Right.
So when you go, okay, whoever's sponsoring this thing, it's like they don't want any programs that are going to be contradictory of what they're trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going like, wow, like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
So
think
go
sorry,
ahead, Pam.
No, I was just going to say, I just think it's important that there's people like us who can speak up. And, you know, we all have a lot of clients, right, who come to see us. And, you know, if that's how we have to get the word out. But the good thing is, and I can see that you guys are kind of the same, that you're not afraid to speak your truth.
No.
And it's not going to stop. So
What's
we have a
left?
responsibility.
Yeah. What is there to lose at this
Right.
point? And you know,
Nothing.
right. And the thing is it is my opinion, spiritually speaking, that nothing ends in this plane of existence, it begins. So if these evildoers who know what they're doing, the cabal assaulting people's health on a mass scale, if they think it ends here and they think they're going to get away with it, things keep going from here. It's going to go into the next realm and then the next realm, and the chase is on. That's it.
Well,
Karmic
also,
Karma.
Also-
Yes.
also, when you look at everything in the universe is vibration. So in order to do what they're doing, this is my perception on it, in order to do what they're doing, they have to be operating at a specific vibration. In other words,
Well,
it's a lower vibration. When you
Yeah.
have the need to control others, when you have the need to put down, give misinformation, lie, cheat, steal, like that energetically is a very heavy and low vibration.
Dark.
And
Yeah.
and so the more that they engage in that activity, it's like they have to constantly consume and suck people into that. Now, the more that I've also told, if you go to fight that, okay, now you're tangled up in that.
Right.
So when you see it for what it is, it goes back to, you just call it going, oh. So I don't know if you remember, there was an episode of the original TV Star Trek with William Shatner as James T. Kirk. And it was these advanced beings, but they almost looked like a butt on their head. They had big heads. As a kid, I'm like, oh, it looks like he's got a coolie on his head. But they would put these thoughts in and create illusions that were frightening. And the more that the crew got frightened, the more it got intense. And these guys were getting off on it. And so finally Kirk realizes, he goes, wait a minute. So there's like a tiger, it's like, you're not real, you're not real, you're not real. And then all of a sudden, eventually, the illusion just burst. And
I remember that.
yeah, so it's like they're creating what they're creating to constantly perpetuate their own existence. Now, this goes back to the work that I do with the body work and also with coaching, is that our defensive patterns have happened because of a trauma. And in the moment of a trauma, there's a perception by our body or the egoic self that it's going to die, that it's not going to make it.
Right.
And so in that moment, what's coming in, which is flow, the whole system freezes that event, compartmentalizes it, and stores it in a part of the body. And then the event's over with, and if it doesn't fully heal, it doesn't resolve all the trapped energetics.
Yep.
That now becomes another filter for the
Yep.
next event that comes through.
Yep.
So what happens over time, and the cabal, whatever we want to call them, likes to play on people's fears, and it's just triggering. So you're constantly being triggered. Once you realize that you've been triggered, and you go, oh, I've been triggered, and not get upset by it, which is hard to do. And you just start, now the whole system can actually self-reflect. And that's what it does. It's a self-reflective, self-healing organism.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that energy in people when you're when you're working on them, like what kind of energy it is?
Not specific. I just feel it's tension. So if we look that there's only two energies on this planet, there's love and there's fear. And fear is everything that love is not. Love is accepting, love is inviting, love is inclusive. Fear is separating, fear is exclusive. Fear is that hierarchy. Love is just, love is. So anytime someone's got tension in their body, it's all based on a reaction to something, and the system was fearful and it kind of froze it.
Mhm.
So I feel someone, okay, there's tension here. Okay, where's the ease? And then all of a sudden, in the analysis I do, it's like inviting the body. You already know where you're tight. Here's the ease. What do you want to do? And so it's got neurological choice. And the system's like, oh, duh, I forgot. Okay, let me go and start. And the whole system starts to unravel and unwind.
Mhm. Mhm. I also believe that perhaps those who are giving off all of these negative energies and evil, they're also committing a very slow and steady soulicide. They're killing themselves, not just their lives, their very souls.
And they don't realize it. They think, again, this is where the egoic self, it wants to perpetuate its own existence.
Right.
At the detriment. So when we look at patterns are there like survival patterns, but if you look as people age and the whole physiology gets more and more constricted, it's that egoic self. It's like they can't hear many things. It's like their vision becomes more and more myopic, and it's just like,
Mhm.
and you see these people that are in these positions of trying to control everything, they're not happy people.
I agree totally.
No, they're not.
And there's a
Not even
disconnect.
close.
Well,
Sorry.
you remember that one CEO of one of the drug companies where I think it might have been for the AIDS drug. He like 100 times he
Yeah.
ridiculously upped the price.
Shirkelly, I forget his name.
Whatever it
Yeah.
was, but he was brought before the Senate to testify, right?
Yeah.
And the whole time you just look at this person is completely disconnected. He got off on the fact that, hey, if you can't afford the drug, you can't afford the drug, find something else. And it's like going, where's your humanity? There was not. And I think he's in jail now. I can't remember I didn't tell the story, but it's like, I'm watching it going, you don't give a rat's bottom about anything other than just profit.
Mhm.
Like, wow.
And that's a good point, because I think also what all of this is creating is it's letting people know that a lot of the things that are of this world are not the things that matter.
No.
Everything worldly is, it's worldly. It's what we cannot see in the space that we cannot see that's more powerful.
Oh,
Like
yes.
love, you don't see love. We
No.
can exercise love, we can show, but you
No.
don't really see the emotion. But it's so powerful, it can light up a whole room.
That's such a true statement. And I guess that's kind of what we're, putting out there. We need to put that out there.
Right. And
Really.
conversely, ego has, I believe, tragically ruined quite often throughout the course of time, an otherwise great man or woman. Ego has just crushed them.
Yes. Yes.
So,
well, it's all that temptation stuff. It's like it doesn't mean not to have things, like not to have, it's fun to have worldly things, but
right.
are you getting the worldly things at the expense of your own health, your own well-being? Are you getting it at the expense of your connection? And that's one thing that they don't realize too. It's like, we're going to dictate this. And what fascinates me too, when I see the clips of the cops down in Australia, like just following orders, it's like, are you aware that you're no different than the Nazis in Germany?
Exactly.
Oh, I'm not them. I'm not. And it's like, well, you're doing the same thing. And I was listening to a podcast with Jordan Peterson, and he was saying that, I forget who he was talking about, and someone that wrote something about World War II, and he goes, the whole thing that came out of World War II is that we're all Nazis. That we all, and someone goes, well, I wouldn't do that. He goes, under the same circumstances, would you do what they did? No. And he goes, but you're already doing it. You reported people that they weren't masked. You told on your neighbor.
Yeah.
You didn't go to church. Like, you can't say you're not, you already are. And if people go, it's almost like their mind can't face the fact that you're behaving the same way. Seems like a different set of circumstances.
Cognitive dissonance, or plausible deniability. I mean, all of those phrases have made a roaring comeback, in the last 2 years. It's crazy. And just to hear you say that, still my instant reaction is just, it's so heartbreaking.
Well,
that
did you see
devolved.
there's a YouTube out. It was an experiment done in Connecticut in the 60s. And it was taking regular people, engineers and whatnot, and they had to sit them down, and they're like, oh, the scientist comes in with an experiment to just show that people learn when they're punished. And what they had to do is read off something, and the guy had to say the next thing. And if he gets a right answer, nothing happens. If they get the wrong answer, they hit him with a certain voltage. And they got to tell them what the voltage is. And the experiment was to see how far would someone go before they stop. And there's one guy who's going, hey, I don't like what's happening to the guy in the other room. He goes, well, how are you? He goes, well, I'm okay, but I don't like what's happening to the other guy. And he goes, well, look, you just need to continue with the experiment. And he was really not liking it. Then there's another guy going, oh, I'm going to do it. And he's laughing, like, I'm zapping the guy. And so it's like he was getting off on the other person's pain. Hey, you got the wrong answer. Ha, 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 ha. Now, had they known what the whole experiment really was, it might have been different. But it was because there was an authority that told them, I'm taking responsibility. You just need to follow instructions. And that's what all of the Nazi, guards were also, just following orders.
I asked Pam this last time too. Do you believe in past lives?
I say yes. I don't know what to believe, really.
Right.
I don't know. Like, do I think it can happen? It's like, are we just here for one show? I don't know.
There are no limits. Right.
Yeah.
The only reason why I asked that is because relative to what you just said, we don't really know when something like this happens on a world scale, we don't really know who these people are, who the lineage of their souls.
Right.
We don't know the lineage of their souls. They could be madmen from past lives, maniacs. They could be, all the villains, right? So when you say that, and you say, and in that experiment, you had that one who was sadistic and laughing at the other man's pain. Who knows who he could have been in some past life, and it was triggering those memories. So that's where life gets a little more complex than what it seems, Our complexities going back to our past are far and wide. I know that all the clients that I've had, every single one is different. I have never had any two clients that are the same. And that confirms how dynamic and amazing and limitless we really are. And yet we're not taught that. We're not taught and told that. We're told we have limits. We have no limits. We have no limits, and in schools, children today are taught the same curriculum, but they're not the same.
No.
Each student is not the same as the one next to them. So we're taught to be herded like sheep, but we're not sheep. I know the people on this call are not sheep. I know that there are some sheep out there right now, unfortunately, but I feel like they've been brainwashed. It's like what Dr. Malone said, mass psychosis. And
Absolutely.
Dr. Artis is also, who's a chiropractor. Dr. Artis has also jumped into the fray. And I know at probably the cost of his own career too, you know?
Yeah. Well,
No.
because like I've listened to Dr. Malone, I've listened to Dr. Artis as well, and it's like they're just you can hear the passion and the fervor of like knowing when something's wrong and wanting to speak it out.
Yep.
I feel that too, but I'm also aware it's like, how to speak it out, when to speak it out.
You're right.
Because there's a lot of people out there that don't want to really hear the truth. They want to stay asleep. They want to stay like, no, 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 you can't. No, 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 I can't. And they believe that medicine is everything that it's cracked up to be. They don't question it.
Right.
And
You're
and
right.
some of them are they're very intelligent people, but they don't realize that,
They're buying snake oil in some cases.
Right.
and they
But
would never admit to that. They can't admit to that. Like,
Right.
it's
they could,
almost,
they don't want to.
Mhm.
well,
They could.
it's sometimes it goes to the point that they've invested so much of who they think they are within that. It's an egoic thing that they can't, it's too much. They
Was it
can't.
was it Mark Twain that said it's easier to fool somebody than it is to tell them they've been fooled?
Yes.
You know,
Not true. Well, I think that, on that subject, I think that, and I feel really strongly about this, that no matter what fear is out there, it is our job to plant that seed. And we can't convince somebody if they're not ready to listen, but at least you give them the information and then you move on to the next person, but they have the information. And you guys know from doing this work that it will grow eventually. It
Yeah.
might be in 5 years, it might be in 10 years, it might be in 50 years. It doesn't matter when it grows, as long as it does.
Mhm.
But it can't stop us from, speaking the truth,
No.
or having our clients understand what we do and how important it is. And it helps them to understand, like, oh, I don't need to live in fear anymore.
Right.
Because we're removing the fear from them. That's basically what we do. We're trying to heal them.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so my hope is that, eventually out of 10 people, even if 2 get it, then we've accomplished something.
I agree. I agree. You know, I have a friend in South Carolina, and they're already experiencing a side effect. They had to take the jab, and it's tragic what they're experiencing right now from memory loss,
Mm.
and they're not the only one. I have firsthand personal anecdotes with friends in my life, and it's not good. It's just not good. So they got in people's faces and told them they had to take them, and then the ones that were injured, they're trying to cancel them if they speak out.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, okay, hold on, they just obeyed you, and now you're gonna, it's proof that they don't care. They just want to dump on us.
Yes.
And even if we do what they say, they'll still dump on us.
They'll find a reason.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And even the holistic practitioners like you, like both of you, especially you, Vin, eventually what's going to happen, and we all know this, they're going to try to shut us up.
Right.
Yep.
Are you
And
kidding?
you know what? The bottom line with that whole thing is that we as practitioners have to learn not to live in fear. We have to let that fear go, because they're going to do what they're going to do to us. But that doesn't mean that's going to stop us from doing what we have to do.
No.
And I feel very strongly about that. I'm not shutting up because I'm afraid to offend somebody. No, I'm going to speak the truth as I know it.
Yeah.
Right. And what we've experienced and what we've seen. So
Yeah.
I just, yeah, we could go on for days about that. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's when we start to speak about these things, I'm trying to remember the woman's name in California who died mysteriously, who was anti-vax. And right before the vax was rolled out, she was suddenly found, she was found dead.
Was she a doctor?
No, but she used to work for a big pharmaceutical company, Brandy Vaughn.
So it's interesting also that Kerry Mullis, who won the Nobel Prize for the PCR, died
Yep.
2 months before the whole.
And he came out and said this should not be used as a diagnostic.
Right.
That, you know what, Vin, that just, that drives me wild, the PCR test, because that is such a example of foolery and trickery on the people of this world, that it's almost as simple as you and I getting together and say, hey, Vin, what number should we put here? What do you think? I don't know. You want to say 30? Nah, let's go with 60. How about that? Well, maybe we should like shoot for it. How about that? Let's like shoot for it. I mean, that's how literally objective the number in the PCR test was. You know, it actually supposed to be calibrated. I think it was around like 34, 35. Okay. So the lower the threshold, it wasn't going to pick up everything. They jacked up the PCR number threshold until like 60 or 70.
Well,
So that it would pick up everything. If you had an allergy, if you had a cold.
yeah, even Fauci had said when he was talking about PCR that if it gets over 30, you're gonna have
Everything.
positive things. And that's
Right.
what they had it over 30. Like if you, and then later on, once the vaccines rolled out, then they brought it back down.
You got it.
And you're going, so it's all your stats are false.
Exactly.
You're not accurate stats.
Nope.
Right.
And they're still using these tests. I still have, you know, people saying, oh, well, I tested and I'm still negative. I tested yesterday, I'm still negative. All right, so you tested yesterday, you tested today. What makes you think that tomorrow is going to be different? Why are you continuing with this? And supposedly there's some sort of chemical in some of the swabs also that's carcinogenic, you know? And then you have some of these tests that come from China, some of the tests that come from the US. So immediately you're going to get varied results. It's not even the same manufacturing company, excuse me.
No.
So I'm used to let that go. That's my phone on my other landline. But the PCR test was absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. I don't know.
Did they have to test in your office, Ben? I remember we talked about this, but
No, they don't. And since the CDC had dropped the mask stuff back in June, we didn't have to wear the mask. I didn't want to wear the mask. My boss was like, no, the CDC says, and it's like, why are we listening to the CDC? But once the CDC changed that, it's like, thank God. And we have a couple of patients that want us to wear the mask. I don't. I let them know if you want to wear the mask, that's fine. I don't really need to wear the mask, and I don't have any patients that ask me to wear the mask. The ones that want to wear it, they wear it. It's like, okay.
Right.
yeah, I guess it's like,
It's just crazy when you see the people with still wanting to wear the mask. It's like, and they're driving alone in a car. It's like,
come on, you can't
Yeah.
fix that.
Yeah.
no.
There were two guys, they were campaigning outside my house a couple weeks ago, and they were running for a school committee in my area. And they stopped to chat with me because they asked me if they could put a sign up in my yard. And so we chatted for about 20 minutes. And they weren't expecting a 20-minute conversation, but I gave them a 20-minute conversation. And I said, so he says, can we put a sign in your yard? I said, if you're asked to institute lockdowns again, what's your answer going to be? No way. I said, okay, go ahead. You can put that sign in my yard. Go ahead. But I mean, they had no idea about the COVID virus, and that it has still not been isolated in a laboratory setting. It has never been isolated.
Are you aware, like if you guys check out Dr. Sam Bailey out of New Zealand, and then also Dr. Andrew Kaufman out of New York. No virus ever has ever been isolated, even though they say it's isolated. They say it's
Including
isolated in
polio,
a solution, but it's never been actually isolated. And they've never, when they've injected, and when you read the documentation, and Sam Bailey, you know, does all of the information, and she is very eloquent in the way she speaks. They will inject stuff into the brain of like a monkey. Like,
Yep.
it's not even the natural way that you'd get anything. And then a lot of times it's with the increase in toxicity that causes the animal to die, and under horrific, stressful conditions. It's not natural.
No.
And so even with polio, she went into that it was based on the toxicity from DDT and the precursor to DDT, which has the same side effects that supposed virus does, but the virus itself has never been isolated.
I heard that same thing. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so when you look at that now, you're like, what the? So, I mean, a while back, there was a thing that I had read, and it said, if you have a truth that's, you know, built up, it's stacked up, and then you find out that down here is where it's not truthful anymore, then everything that comes after that is all BS. And so when you look at going back to the Rockefellers and Flexner, with the whole Flexner report, et cetera, it was all designed to destroy all the other colleges that were teaching homeopathy, naturopathy, chiropractic, osteopathy,
Yep.
to make allopathic medicine the true medicine, which it was actually an alternative, and they flipped it around. So it was all propaganda, all.
And the Rockefellers also allegedly had a huge hand in founding Johns Hopkins University.
Yeah.
So they got directly into academia.
Mhm.
And as of like 10, 15 years ago, I know that traditional Western doctors were only given like 4 or 5 hours of nutrition, if that.
Right, maybe.
They're
Maybe.
taught how to
As an elective.
Yeah. Awful, you know. So now they go in and they're on their little charts or their phones, and they'll put in the symptoms and whatever comes up. Okay, take this, take this, take this. See me in 2 weeks, you know. And it's not even a personalized visit.
No.
Unless they are good doctors, unless they are doctors with a good conscience, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that there are some out there.
Yeah.
So, and I know that many others are just being silenced, which is awful. And in
I remember-
California, they're being threatened.
With that law that Newsom just signed, as far as that if you question anything,
Right.
that the board's going to come after you. And it's like, wait a minute, the board
Even
is.
if it's facts, even if you give facts
Right.
Yes.
that are counter to what they're trying to push,
Yeah.
they'll still do it. Yeah,
That's insanity.
it is complete insanity. I agree.
How do we accomplish this, awakening people to the truth? How do we do that?
Great question. Well, first of
Help
all,
me out here, guys.
no, the way to awaken people is really tuning into them and where they are in their journey. So like when someone is wanting to heal, it's, you know, what is the level of healing? So like I'll have some people will come, not just the office where I'm working, but over the years, I want to get cracked. Just get rid of this pain. And it's like, is that all you want? You just want to be rid of pain? Do you want your body to heal? Do you want your body to function beyond where it was before? No, I just want to live the life. So that's a person that just wants to do the status quo.
Yeah.
And many times with that person, I'd refer them out. It's like going, you're not really wanting what I have to offer. You just wanted, okay, go see this particular person. If I said, you know, do you want to, you know, yes, you will get out of pain, but do you want to have more full expression of who and what you are? Is that possible? Yes. Okay. You know, I do a talk and do a demonstration, and they're like going, oh my gosh, I want that. great. They're a real good patient. I call them practice members. Because they're participating with you in their journey. Those that
That's
just
true.
want, give me a pill, potion, or lotion. I just want to go back to living the lifestyle I was before. And you go, and nothing wrong with that. Okay.
Yeah. So the other growing elephant in the room is the fact that what many in the mainstream have not grasped is that now the end goal are the kids. They want the kids.
You know,
Sure.
the kids.
You move the parents aside, move any elders aside. Now we have the kids. And that's why they're trying to make villains of parents at school boards,
Yeah.
villains of parents who want to have a choice in their child's health. I mean,
Yes.
I can't even believe we're even saying this, that
No, it
a
is.
parent shouldn't have a, this is Brave New World. This is 1984.
Yeah.
Full force, full on right now.
Yeah. It's like they want to take away, like, I forget what I was, another podcast I was listening to, and they were talking about that in the schools, they have this magic circle. And then what this gets discussed in the magic circle, you can't tell anybody. And
Not
they're
cool.
discussing sex and discussing, and it's like going, why? What do you,
Yeah.
So I think what's
Yeah.
going to have to happen is everyone is just going to have to say, you know what? I'm not sending my kids to public school.
Right.
I'm not sending my kids to that school.
Well,
They
I
need
think
to
one of
start
the, I think
showing
one of
up
the,
at these school board meetings, like show up. We need people to show up and speak up.
I think one of the repercussions that's going to come out of the CDC's decision yesterday to add the COVID jab to the permanent schedule of the CDC is that more parents, at least outside of New England, I don't know what the heck's going on in New England, outside of New England, they're going to be pulling their kids out more and more now. And you're going to see a homeschooling boom.
Mm.
And we thought we already saw one. I think we're about to see another phase of that now.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I don't know if you saw, Vin, that the recent, there was something released about the most vaxxed places in America. It's all in the Northeast, all in New England states. It's hard to wrap my head around that. You have all of these academic institutions and you have mass formation psychosis and believability of things. I read a very clever post yesterday, and it said, if I do research, if I'm a home buyer or a car buyer, and I do research on homes and cars, I am considered a smart consumer. But if I do research on what somebody wants to put into my body against my will,
Right.
I'm considered a conspiracy theorist.
Right. Of course you are.
And I'm going to repeat what I said the last show, just if there's new audience that are going to watch this one. The term conspiracy theory was born out of the FBI in the 1950s and 60s against truthers who were trying to spread the truth about Area 51 and the John F. Kennedy assassination. And what they do is, if they speak the truth, attack them with words, with names, labels, name call them, attack them. Don't let them speak. Tell them to be quiet. Propaganda, get it on the news. Tell everybody they're all whack jobs.
Yeah.
It's exactly what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
you won't even go there.
yeah. So it should be the reverse. If people at home or who are listening to this, whenever you hear the term conspiracy theory, it usually means there's some truth there. And you need to do your own research into it.
Yes.
And find out why they are being name called and character assassinated.
Yeah.
Why? Ask questions.
Yeah, it's everyone really needs to take the responsibility of doing their own research and look at where those sources come from. And when you look at the truth speaks to itself. So like when I started finding out that no virus has ever been isolated, it's like going, wow. I remember in microbiology class, and we're looking at it and going, this is this. And I'm like, well, how do we know that that's what that is? Well, because the scientist went, I said, well, it looks like it was like this little house with these little things. It looked like something from Lost in Space that just landed. And and I said, how do we know that that's not an artifact? How do we know that's not part of something that happened in the staining process? How do we know that? How do we know it's not a dust that, and the professor was like so pissed off with me, like, don't be an idiot, don't be stupid. And I'm like, well, how do I know that that's what that is? Just because someone else said, I didn't see it. I didn't do the experiment. Now,
right.
does it have to do all the experiments? No. Like when I do the type of healing work that I do, when I was at the seminar and they said, yeah, when you touch this area, watch, and the breath wave goes through. I'm like, wow. And then the body moves. And it's like going, wow. Well, he said it. He did it. I saw it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Right.
That's a classical philosophical question right there. I mean, Jeremy Bentham, Hobbes, John Stuart Mill. I mean, there was the classic question, what is real, right? What is real? And that's a really another great story you just gave, because you can take a table and make it a chair. So was it really a table? You know what I mean? But so essentially that's what you were asking and you got attacked for it.
Yeah.
But it's the same vein of thought. It's like, okay, well, how do I know? Just because they said it, and just because someone's been told it, as we've been told how to think by powers outside of our bodies, outside of our minds, outside of our hearts and souls, people who aren't even native to us are telling us what to do, and the masses are believing them.
Buying it, hook, line, and sinker.
Buying it. They're buying it. How do we really know that's true? How do we really know what is truth? You
Either
know?
way, either side, like you just don't know. I ask questions constantly. I want to know, to the point where I just irritate the heck out of people. I don't care.
Well, I was friends with Matthew Bruckley, who was the authoritative biographer for F. Scott Fitzgerald. And he told me when I met him in South Carolina years ago, he said, I used to drive my college professors nuts because I would ask questions after question after question, and they would get so angry with me. Will you just be quiet back there? Will you?
No.
Because he had an inquisitive mind. He's like, well, how do we know that? Well, why did he do that? I don't know why. Well, I want to know why. Why did he do that? You know, so it's healthy.
Question everything.
Yeah, it's healthy to question things.
Look,
But
we're not getting any younger. And my theory on this is I have nothing to lose. I raised my kids, you know, I can only go forward. I have nothing to lose. So I'm going to do what I have to do to make sure that the people that I come in contact with know what the truth is, and that they can question it and find out for themselves. It's okay. They don't need to live in fear.
That's right.
You know?
It is okay.
It's just so much, people come to me with so much fear in their body, just like they do for both of you, you know?
So Vin, energetically speaking too, and I think Pam, you will also have something to say on this. Moving forward, speaking of muscle memory, I was thinking that even in 20 or 30 years from now, say if someone's getting a massage, a certain muscle is worked on, they could start, I mean, we are living in such a traumatic period of time that in 30 years, memories from this age are still going to pop up, even in an energy session, a massage session. So people at home listening to this, you're going to have to get ready for that, because this is going to, we will be reminded of this period for a long time to come. Whenever we do body work, whenever we do self-energy work, soul work, it's going to come up, and it's going to come up in ways that might not be too pleasant for those who, you know, depending on what they did during this time, that they felt was right for them in that moment, in this moment.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. As a for instance, years ago, I had a patient in the office when I had my office in Norwalk, Connecticut, and she'd been under care, oh, 6 months, maybe a year. And her history was her mom was dying with cancer when she was born. Mom died when she was 6 months old. So no mom after that. But she had no recollection of her childhood. And then on the table one day, I just sat her up and repositioning the spine. And it's like all the little tumblers came to that one place. And then all of a sudden, her eyes are closed and she's screaming, "Get the F off of me, get the F off of me." Like, now, fortunately, I'm behind her and I knew she was reliving an event. And I'm like, "Open your eyes, it's Dr. Vin. Open your eyes, it's Dr. Vin." And she's like, "Just go." I said, "Open your eyes." So she opens her eyes and you could see the look in her eyes, complete dissociation. And she's just going. And I said, and I'm far enough away so she's not going to hit me. And I'm like, and then finally, all of a sudden, the realization, they raped me. And it was, I think, an uncle and a cousin, and they had habitually sexually abused her. And she's just like she had no memory before that. And now it came up. Unfortunately, at the time, because I had a big room with 6 tables in it, there was one of my other practice members who was a psychotherapist. And I said, "Give me your card," gave it to her. I said, "Look, you probably need to talk, but let's continue to do the body work, but you need to talk." And it's like, if someone had said, did you know that was going to come up? No, I had no idea. And she had no idea. But when it's time, whatever trapped memory is there, I had guys from World War II, guys from the Korean War, and guys from Vietnam War. The Vietnam vets would start to feel some things and they want to walk like, "Dude, can't do this. I swore I would never feel or relive that shit. There's stuff you don't." I'm like, "Look, it's still trapped in there. If it's trapped in there, it's going to fester. It's like you want it out. You want to be liberated. Yes, it may come up. Some of it you get conscious aware of it. Some of it you may not." Nope. I've had cops that watched horrific stuff and don't want to relive this shit. It's like, sorry. And like,
so you bring up, that's another great point, because we're living through a period of psychological abuse. We're living through a period of psychological terrorism, is what we're living through. Intentional psychological terrorism.
Yeah, come up.
That's sad.
So with all of that, what I look at is we can get really depressed getting into what's actually happening. And when we know and acknowledge, like, there's a group that are, elites that, don't care. They definitely don't care. And if we can still just come from a space of centeredness, a space of love and compassion, it doesn't mean we listen to them, doesn't mean we follow what they're doing. It's like, "Oh, that's what you want to do? Well, no, I'm not going to do that." But we keep our sense of humor, we keep our sense of lightness, and we play with whatever's there. It's like people feel that lightness. They feel that in each of us. That's what attracts them to come to us. And then we assist them in going as far as they can go with us.
Yeah. And
That's
also,
that's
another good thing is that it teaches us contrast, right? Contrast is always good. And we're seeing a lot of contrast right now.
Yeah.
We need to see the good, though. We need the lighter side of things.
Absolutely.
We've been deprived of it for what seems like forever. I don't even know how long, but the energy needs to shift, right? And by doing what we do, we can certainly help shift that energy along, I think. I've seen it happen, I've talked to other practitioners and just, everybody's on the same page. And, the ones that aren't, again, even our own kind, there's not much we can do about that.
No.
We just have to double down and work harder at it. So
stay positive. That's it.
Yeah, try.
Yeah.
Even after this heavy conversation, I'm trying to
Well,
stay
no,
positive.
no, I think it's been a wonderful exchange.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to acknowledge, put it this way, we couldn't have just spoken for an hour and not broached any of this, because it's in our periphery, it's in our society, it's
It's
happening
part of
every
what we
day,
do.
all around us. Yes, and we are seeing clients who are
Affected by it.
battling, they're affected by it
Yeah.
directly, indirectly, through loved ones. So
Yeah.
loss of loved ones.
Well, I had a patient today who's a teacher, and I when she came in, I said, "So how's the body doing today?" And she's like, "Oh," I said, "Was it a rough day?" She goes, "Yeah, a student was running and passed out." And I'm like going, "Oh," and as soon as she starts talking, my mind's already going into what might have taken place. And she goes, and then there's a whole crowd around him. They called the EMTs, and he had passed out and blood was coming out of his mouth. And then they rushed him, and then they ended up, I think, I don't know, brought him down to Yale or something like that. And I just said to her, I said, "My first question is, did he get jabbed?" And she looked at me, she goes, "That's what my question was." I said, "Because it doesn't sound like a normal thing for a child, this is
Yep.
7th grade, to just run and jump over and have blood coming out of their mouth. It's just not." And so she started on, and I said, "I know I took a chance by saying that, because there's other people that are in this office that would have gone, what's wrong with you?" It's like, but
Right.
it's looking at what intervention. That's the first thing when someone says, "Oh, I got an autistic child," it's like, were they vaxxed? And some of them are like, "But that's got nothing to do with anything." It's like, if we look at, if a child is born and there was no problem with the birth, it's like, what was done after the birth that might contribute to it? So was the child dropped? Was the child traumatized? What was brought in to the child? And it's like, as any investigator would look at, it's like, what's been done that could be a contributing factor. But the fact that we can't even ask that question, it's like, why can't we ask that question?
Right. Right. In 1962, there were 5 shots on the CDC vax schedule.
Yep.
Now in some states there's upwards of 77 max.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I think in New York is in the 60s now. Rhode Island might be in the high 40s. I forget. And so that's like between, like, what is it, from like birth to 5 or something like that? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that small body is getting inundated with all of these chemicals. And we can take a food label and flip it over and see the ingredients. Can't do that with these shots.
No, imagine that.
Imagine that, right? And doctors can't name 3 ingredients off the top of their heads, often at the top of their heads, with regards to what's in them. And from aluminum to Nagalase is present in a lot of the autistic kids, and Nagalase was found in one of the shots, one of the vaxes before COVID.
The MMR. It was the MMR, right?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe was it? Okay. So it's the facts are out there, the truth is out there. It's up to the people to do their own homework and not listen to mainstream media, who, as you said, Vin, are bought and paid for by the very companies that are pushing the shots onto us. So you can either be prudent and smart and aware and do your own research and originate your truth from within yourselves, or you can go ahead and you can put your faith in a mainstream media coming from mouths and voice boxes whom you have never met before in real life, in your daily lives. Never, so.
Well, Like, I guess we should probably wrap up. It's been quite the great conversation.
Mm.
Well, let's do it again.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it.
Absolutely.
No
Well, the
doubt.
thing to also remember is if you stop the world, like, and just go, time out a minute, and then you ask the question, where's the money going? Where, follow the money trail. And then look at this whole thing when businesses were shut down and you're not essential, this, who made money?
Great question.
You go, who made money?
Just
500 more
three
billionaires
businesses.
were added.
Yeah, so you look at 500 more billion, but you also look at every one of the governors of the 50 states did not stay home. So you go, hold on a minute. All the governments were open.
Yep.
Why? But the churches are shut down. Why?
And liquor stores were open.
Liquor stores, Walmart, like, why? But mom and pop shops, hairdressers, like, why?
Mhm.
And then 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then,
It's been a long 2 weeks.
yeah, you just go, well, it's just, you stop and start looking, well, wait, well, hold on a minute. Let's just look at everything logically. Let's look at everything in a matter, like, what really took place here? And then
Mhm.
who's benefiting?
Right.
You know, for a while, schools were going down the vein of teach kids to critically think. Are you critically thinking? Are you critically thinking? I don't hear that anymore.
No,
So, Vin, what you were just saying, that's critically thinking. Kids have been taught in curriculums to do that. It requires critical thought to study the SATs and figure things out and study on your own, or any kind of discipline that you're studying, whether it be medicine or law, anything requires critical thought to make the thoughts your own, to make the knowledge your own, so you can understand it. That's exactly what you're saying. You know, have some critical thinking capacity and apply it to the times that we're living and the things that are happening to us right now.
yes.
Good point, Neil. That's a good point. So Finn, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can either email me at Dr. Vincent P. Monaco @gmail.com. Or they can call me on my cell 203-275-7559. Those are the two immediate ways of getting in touch with me.
And how about if they want to make an appointment with you? They just
Well, they
where
can
are you
call that
working?
number. They can email or call that number. And so that's, I see some patients privately in Fairfield. And then I also work up at, in East Lyme. So that number at East Lyme is 860-739-3600. That's Pape Chiropractic on Flanders Road in East Lyme. So I'm up there Monday through Thursday.
Oh,
And
okay.
in Fairfield, I'm there by appointment only on Fridays and Saturdays. So
Wow, I didn't realize you were that close. In
Yeah.
East Lyme, because East Lyme
Yeah.
isn't that far from here, so for where I am anyway.
So I work as an associate in the East Lyme office, and then I see some private people at Fairfield.
Okay, great. Well, listen, thank you so much for doing this, because it's been on my radar for a while, so I wanted to reach out to you. I just didn't, so, but now I
No, that's
did.
fine. No, you did. That's fine. No, and if anyone's calling, because I don't, well, I'm at the office, I don't pick up the phone. And if I don't recognize a number, because I get so much spam, it's like crazy. So if someone's really curious, text that number, just say who you are, where you heard about me, and then I will give you a call back. So, or leave a voicemail. So.
All right, well, thank you, thank you. And Neil, you have anything to say? Any parting words of wisdom?
I think we should do this again.
All right.
You know, and I just say, you know, I still think that sometimes it takes a fire for the phoenix to rise out of the ashes, and I think that we're seeing that fire right now.
Well-
And positive energy is 10 times or hundreds of times more powerful than negative.
Well, if we look at it, it's almost as stinky as it is what everybody's going through. Okay, as horrific as it is, it's sometimes it takes horrific stuff to wake people up.
And have a renaissance. That's right.
You know,
Right.
and it's really people. What I find fascinating is when it was brought about, you know, with the Supreme Court overruling the abortion ruling. And then the women are getting up in arms like, my body, my choice. And it's like, well, when that was used, when they were coming out with the vaccine, it's like, well, it's not your body and it's for every, and it's like going, you can't have it both ways. It's
Mhm.
like either we're autonomous and we're sovereigns and we dictate what goes in and what goes out. No one should ever take that right away from anybody. No one
Right.
should ever tell no government or anyone should ever tell someone you can or cannot do this. And then it becomes down for them of what's the right choice for them to make for their health and well-being.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's supposed to be. And any government should be defending a person's right to choose and not dictating. So to me, when a government is doing that, they are no longer serving the people that voted them in, and they should resign.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they
And-
are violating the Constitution that
Yep.
they swore to uphold. So
Yeah.
that is, to me, is called treason.
Exactly. It is completely treasonous, and there's also something called universal law and common law that is
Yes.
gaining steam more and more across America right now. To be educated and versed in common law,
Yes.
which is the law of the land.
Yes.
So that's a whole other.
That's a whole other topic.
That's a whole nother episode.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to
Oh,
meet you too, Neil.
That was just me, sorry.
All
What are you
right.
doing?
All right, I'm gonna stop recording and then we can chat for a second.
Okay.
Hold on one second.